mercy, Lord. Forgive us, Lord.
Hi, good morning. This week I want us to look at the Christian response to justice and equality. Justice is something the Bible is really concerned about, and sometimes it gets a low profile. I have this special Bible, the Poverty and Justice Bible, and it tells me that over 2,000 verses in the Bible deal with the issues of poverty and justice, and they're coloured in orange, and you'll see how much there is all through the Bible, even in the New Testament and the words of Jesus. It's really an important issue. Now, I come from an atheist family. I was taught that there is no Father Christmas in the sky, and life's what you make it, and it's up to you. And they voted Conservative, and my father that brought me up was a very proud army man, because he started as a captain, as a private, and finished as a captain. And so obviously at 14, I decided to follow Jesus. And when I sort of read what Jesus said and listened to my Sunday school teachers, it seemed obvious that if you were following Jesus, you had to be a pacifist, because how could you kill your enemy when you're supposed to love them? And then it seemed obvious that you had to be a socialist because you wanted equality. And you shouldn't take up arms, you should pray. And so this was what I followed. I became a member of the CND. And here I have my CND badge. But my brother and I, we helped to form the Christian CND. And so you'll see that there's a cross on our badge. And I helped with the Labour Party to deliver leaflets. People were most impressed with a 14-year-old telling them where they should vote. But later on, I lived a week as a refugee in the middle of the marketplace with a few other Christians to bring home to people the problem of refugees. Later I met Ewan, and we lived in Liverpool Toxteth and experienced a lot of racism. This is what I felt was what you should do if you're a Christian. And I have to say that it was a lot of fun, and it was very fulfilling, and it seemed to be what Jesus was asking in the Bible. But when I got to 50, I had a sharp learning curve, and things didn't quite seem so black and white. I went to Rwanda near the end of the genocide. And at one point I was shown the church, and there were still all the dead bodies there. And these people had been being chased, and they'd run into the church, and they'd been praying to God for him to protect them. And he didn't. And prayer hadn't worked. And I was absolutely devastated. And I actually, at one point, when I was looking after some orphan children, I wanted a gun to protect them and mow anybody down that was coming to kill them. And it appeared to me that God was not answering prayer, and that unresolved conflict has come back again when I think about the Ukrainian war. And when I saw the young Ukrainian Christians praying at the beginning of the war, and they believed that God would protect them. And now there's so many needless deaths. So it's always made me to question God from when I had the experience of Rwanda when I was 50. And to ask God, why are you not protecting people? This is what it says in the Bible, and why aren't you doing it? I know that some people don't dare to verbalise these thoughts, and in some parts of the church we're discouraged to ask questions. But if you personally are like me for the first 50 years of your life and you don't ask a lot of questions, there will be family and friends who will challenge us when we start talking to them about our faith, and we need to have pointers. I get a lot of comfort from the prophet Habakkuk, and I'm going to ask Ewan to read that. because I identify very much with him.
The problem as God gave Habakkuk to see it. God, how long do I have to cry out for help before you listen? How many times do I have to yell, help, murder, police, before you come to the rescue? Why do you force me to look at evil, stare trouble in the face day after day? Anarchy and violence break out, quarrels and fights all over the place. Law and order fall to pieces. Justice is a joke. The wicked have the righteous hamstrung and stand justice on its head. God says, look around at the godless nations. Look long and hard. Brace yourself for a shock. Something's about to take place and you're going to find it hard to believe. I'm about to raise up Babylonians to punish you. Babylonians fierce and ferocious, world-conquering Babylon, grabbing up nations right and left. A dreadful and terrible people, making up its own rules as it goes. Their horses run like the wind, attack like bloodthirsty wolves. A stampede of galloping horses thunders out of nowhere. They descend like vultures, circling in on carrion. They're out to kill. Death is on their minds. They collect victims like squirrels gathering nuts. They mock kings, poke fun at generals, spit on forts and leave them in the dust. They'll all be blown away by the wind. Brazen in sin, they call strength their God. God, you're from eternity, aren't you? Holy God, we aren't going to die, are we? God, you chose Babylonians for your judgment work. Rock solid God, you gave them the job of discipline. But you can't be serious. You can't condone evil. So why don't you do something about this? Why are you silent now? This outrage. Evil men swallow up the righteous and you stand around and watch. You're treating men and women as so many fish in the ocean, swimming without direction, swimming but not getting anywhere. Then this evil Babylonian arrives and goes fishing. He pulls in a good catch. He catches his limit and fills his creel. A good day of fishing. He's happy. He praises his rod and reel, piles his fishing gear on an altar and worships it. It's made his day, and he's going to eat well tonight. Are you going to let this go on and on? Will you let this Babylonian fisherman fish like a weekend angler, killing people as if they're nothing but fish? What's God going to say to my questions? I'm braced for the worst. I'll climb to the lookout tower and scan the horizon. I'll wait to see what God says, how he'll answer my complaint.
I identify and find comfort from Habakkuk. He stood up and questioned God. And the questions he has in that passage are the questions I ask. And amazingly, God answered him. It seems important to our growth as Christians to be honest with God, because actually he knows our thoughts, doesn't he? And if we're hurting, we need to tell him. And if we don't understand, we need to ask questions and ask for help. And as with Habakkuk, God does answer. On one occasion when I was really sort of telling God, how terrible I thought everything was and why wasn't he doing anything, I did something which I wouldn't advise any of you to do, really. I just opened my Bible in the middle and had a look to see what it said. And it was quite funny, really, because it came out at Job. It was Job 38, and I started to read 1 to 4, and it wasn't a part of the Bible I knew very well. Then the Lord spoke to Job out of the storm. He said, Who is it that obscures my plans with words without knowledge? Brace yourself like a man, and I will question you, and you will answer me. Where were you when I laid the earth's foundation? Tell me if you understand. And it actually made me laugh. I felt God does have a sense of humour. Come on, Noreen, who do you think you are? You're not the brightest person in the world. And to grow and mature as Christians, we need to think out these things, we need to wrestle with them, and we need to struggle. And God slowly is able to reveal his plans. Because who are we? God is the almighty creator of the universe, and we're just like little specks of sand. And how can our little brains understand all these things? And with our own children, we don't tell children inappropriate things for their age. And so people like myself, it takes me a while to learn. But I do know, as I read the Bible, that God is a God of justice. And we are called as individual and church to care. So I hope you will continue to look with me at our own personal responsibility and our corporate responsibility. And that even though, as we look at the world, it seems very crazy, and at the moment, you know, the wars and the suffering, and yet we can hold firm to the fact that we do have a God of justice, and he has got it in control. So I hope that you'll follow me tomorrow.
Oh Lord, the clouds are gathering, the fire of judgment burns. How we have fallen, oh Lord. You stand appalled to see your laws of love so scorned, and life so broken. Have mercy, Lord, forgive us, Lord. Restore us, Lord, revive your church again. Let justice flow like rivers, and righteousness like a never-failing stream. Have mercy, Lord. Forgive us, Lord.